Okay, guys, and we're back with another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest. I'm Seth from the Lone Star Podcast, and this is episode 79 of my side quest. Now, in this episode, we're going to be looking at a recent article where we saw Colby Covington say that UFC former welterweight champion Leon Edwards should retire from the UFC following his loss at UFC London against Sean Brady. Now, I completely understand where Colby Covington is actually coming from. I think Colby Covington should retire as well, for the same reasons that I think Leon Edwards should retire. But that's because, well, I think of these guys that are in MMA, they're in boxing, that have had their run at the top. In Leon's instance, he was champion. In Colby Covington's instance, he was basically number one, number two contender for a while. And that period's done now. You're never gonna become in Leon Edwards. You're never Leon Edwards, situation. You're never gonna become world champion again. And in Colby Covington's situation, you're never going to become world champion. So I'm thinking, MMA and boxing, they're sports where the more you fight, the more damage you take. There's no two ways about it. The more you do it, the worse. At this point, the more you do it, the worse you're kind of gonna get at it in terms of ability to take damage because you're aging, right? It's not like a normal job where you've been a project manager for 5 years, 10 years. Of course, after 10 years, you're going to be better than you was at day one. And in terms of technique, you're obviously going to be better in fighting in MMA. You're going to be better in terms of technique, but in terms of being able to take damage, which both of these guys, for their styles, sort of need to be able to do. Leon Edwards less so, Colby Covington more so, because Colby Covington's a lot more of a pressure style fighter. So he's coming inside, he's closing distance. If he can't take those shots, then he's cooked, right? And we saw in the Buckley fight in the third round, he got stopped due to a cut. But yeah, I mean that's not really anything to do with shot resistance per se. But like I said, my point is for the same reasons, both guys probably should retire because, like I said, they've both sort of had their run at the top. It's done. They're probably never going to reach those heights again. Looking at the styles of the guys in the welterweight division, I look at. Listen, we're talking about Leon Edwards. So don't talk about Leon Edwards. We look at the guys who's just lost to Sean Brady and Bilal. These guys are at the top of the division right now, and he lost, pretty handedly to these guys. And Leon Edwards hasn't beat outside of Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington himself, who Colby Covington said he was injured in that fight, but outside of Kamaru Usman, he hasn't really beaten any top level guys. I mean, you look at his run up to the title, he beat Nate Diaz, who, you know, a big name, but in terms of ability, woefully overrated. This guy is he's not even that good of a boxer. He's just a volume puncher. He's not got great defense, and early on in the UFC days, he was regarded as a pretty good grappler, but never regarded as a good wrestler. So you're basically fighting a guy who's a volume puncher with a good guard game, right? Because he's not really going to shoot for takedowns. So Leon Edwards had no worries there. So Leon Edwards beat him up pretty nicely, and then he got dominated by Usman for the first fight, and then pulled out the win, and then beat Colby Covington, and then lost to Bilal. And then lost to Sean Brady again. So I'm like, Leon Edwards, you've sort of had your run. He is a bit of a one-hit wonder, definitely. That's definitely a fair thing to say, because even he was one of these guys similar to Aljamain. I was thinking about this earlier, but similar to Aljamain, when he won the title, it's very weird, very rare situations this happens in. But it's when a guy wins the title, but isn't really regarded as the best in the division. Like Aljo beat PTN and even beat PTN in a rematch, but still just wasn't convincing. He just felt like, okay, this guy beat him, but you're not better than him. Like Leon Woods isn't a better fighter than Kamaru Usman, but he beat him twice. And in the first fight, we saw how much better Kamaru Usman is than Leon Edwards. We saw that, but he managed to win and was the champion for a while. And you're like, this guy's not the best in the division. He beat, I think Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman, after he lost to Leon Edwards, was going to be pretty shot to bits because it's a sort of finish that does that to you. We're seeing this more and more nowadays in MMA where guys get badly knocked out and they never really recover from it. Sure, you can physically recover from it, but when you're in that fight again, mentally, you will never recover from that. I mean, not never, but very, very, very few guys actually can recover from that, where they can actually get knocked out and then come back to fighting how they was fighting before they got knocked out. No. Your body won't allow you to do it. It's like your body's got an additional emergency power bank where instead of your battery running out at 0%, your battery just stops at 20% because it doesn't want to reach 0%. So it's gonna sort of just stop it at 20% and be like, yeah, we're good as done. We're basically done. We don't want to hit zero again, right? But yeah, Leon Edwards probably should retire because his style of fighting as well is underwhelming. The guy's a really good athlete. He's big for welterweight, and on paper has got a lot of good weapons in terms of his striking. But he seems to be content with sort of similar to Bilal, just sort of content with winning boring decision wins using his striking if he can. The Kamaru Usman fight, he was forced to finish him because he'd been beaten up the entire fight. And then Colby Covington, I'm sure was a decision as well, right? And you got dominated by Bilal, and then got dominated by Sean Brady. He's not getting another title shot, and all the up and coming contenders will probably just mollywop him. If I'm being honest, all these other guys in the welterweight division would mollywop Leon Edwards. But I know that. We know that now. In this video is being recorded the end of March. It'll come out in April. We know that Leon Edwards will not come to this realization until, I'm not, cracked up to it as much as I used to be. No, bro, we knew this back when you lost to Sean Brady. You should have retired, right? And he won't, but he should. Same thing with Colby Covington as well. Like I said, Leon Edwards, they're both in the same positions, except Leon Edwards' peak was just higher. Leon Edwards got to the world title. Colby Covington was ranked number 1, number 2 for a while. Both guys have had their time in the sun. They're cooked now. The division's passed them by, and they will want to fight other top contenders, and they will lose to them. They may beat some of them, but I'm like, okay, let's say you're Colby Covington and you're ranked. I don't know where he's ranked. I've not got the rankings in front of me. Say he's ranked 7 or 8. Okay, you win one more fight. Like you're ranked number 7th. You're 2 fights away from a title fight. Can you beat 2 guys that, in Colby Covington's case, he wouldn't be able to? You look at Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, similar to Colby Covington now, is probably outside of the top 5. Again, same thing. Can you beat 2 other guys ranked ahead of you? No. So you're not going to get another title shot. So what are we doing this for? Are you doing this to get big paydays and take brain damage? Because if that's the case, then, I mean, they'll never say that. Obviously, fighters aren't going to be like, oh yeah, I'm just here to make some money. Some of them do say it, to be fair, but that's basically what you're there for at this point. An interesting topic to talk about, but I think Leon Edwards should retire because he's not going to win a world title, and MMA is not the type of sport that I would want to be a journeyman in or a gatekeeper in. You can get paid very handsomely. The UFC, they're paying fighters very well nowadays. Leon Edwards got paid £3 million to main event UFC London. But, I mean, to be fair, for £3 million, I would do it. For £3 million, if I could get out grappled for £3 million, I would do it. But it starts off as getting out grappled. Then maybe he gets knocked out, and then knocked out again, stopped again, decision losses. And these losses start to pile up, and before you know it, you're damn near out the rankings, and you're just a guy who was a former champion that people are saying people forget man about. Same thing for Colby Covington. Same can be said for both guys. Both guys are in very similar situations. Colby Covington obviously is worse off because he was never a champion before. So he's not getting those huge paydays like Leon Edwards is. But Colby's doing alright as well. Colby's slept on poker player and doing his thing in that realm. So Colby Covington, just retire and focus on poker and podcasting, bro. Leon Edwards, you can't even put a sentence together. You can't really talk, so don't worry about that. But you've made millions, so you can just chill in Birmingham and smoke spliff. But, yeah. An interesting episode, nonetheless. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Do you think Leon Edwards should retire? Do you think Colby Covington should retire? I think they're both in similar spots, and I think they should both retire. They won't because they like the money, but if I'm thinking about my long-term health, as someone who's already rich, in terms of Leon Edwards and Colby Covington are already rich, they should be looking at their long-term health, which they won't be. They should retire. But what do you guys think? Do you think they can make a run and then maybe get a title shot? And do you think maybe Colby Covington will ever win a world title? I don't think he will. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Another episode of the Seth Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.